Have you ever considered how deeply your relationships shape your emotional health and overall happiness? Let me share with you a brief yet profoundly eye-opening story of Mark, a talented graphic designer living in California, whose life was nearly unraveled by failing to recognize the early signs of betrayal. Mark was successful, compassionate, and deeply loyal. He believed that trust and openness formed the foundations of any healthy relationship. For years, he invested all his energy and love into his girlfriend, unaware that subtle signs were pointing toward a harsh reality he refused to acknowledge. Mark began noticing small yet consistent changes in her behavior, her emotional distance, sudden late-night meetings, and unusual secrecy around her phone. Despite sensing something was off, Mark chose to ignore these feelings, thinking they were temporary and insignificant. His denial stemmed not from ignorance, but from hope, a common human response rooted deeply in our longing for stability and companionship. Yet, as the ancient philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Eventually, Mark discovered that his girlfriend was indeed seeing someone else, leaving him heartbroken, betrayed, and emotionally drained. The lesson here is powerful and clear. Recognizing signs early is crucial, not to create suspicion or paranoia, but to protect your emotional health, dignity, and future happiness. Had Mark trusted his intuition sooner, he could have avoided tremendous pain and heartbreak. Today, I'm here to guide you so you won't face Mark's struggles. Awareness is power, my friend. When you trust your intuition, communicate openly, and address warning signs clearly, you safeguard your emotional health and future happiness. Now, quickly share your thoughts. If you've experienced anything similar, just type "I relate" in the comments. This simple step reminds you that you're not alone, and together, we can all move toward a wiser, stronger, happier life. Let me share a powerful and true story that underscores exactly why recognizing these signs early matters more than you realize. Mark, a talented graphic designer in California, was someone who genuinely believed in the goodness of people and valued trust deeply in his relationships. He dedicated himself fully, investing emotionally and financially in his relationship, always assuming the best intentions of his partner. Yet slowly, subtle shifts began to occur. His girlfriend became increasingly distant, frequently busy with unexplained meetings, protective over her phone, and indifferent to future plans together. Mark sensed something was off but chose to dismiss those intuitive feelings, thinking it was just stress or a rough patch. You see, Mark, like many of us, allowed hope and denial to cloud his judgment. The ancient philosopher Seneca once taught us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Yet Mark's reality became even more painful than his imagination ever anticipated. When Mark finally uncovered the painful truth, that his girlfriend had been cheating for months, it devastated him. His sense of self-worth and emotional health were deeply shaken. He wished he had trusted his instincts sooner, he wished he had paid attention to the subtle signs that were evident all along. Mark's story is a powerful reminder of why awareness and timely action matter. Had he recognized these subtle signs earlier, he could have addressed the issue more decisively, saving himself considerable pain and emotional turmoil. Friends, awareness is power. By acknowledging our intuition and paying attention to signs, we protect our inner peace, safeguard our emotional health, and pave the way toward stronger, healthier relationships. Now, if you relate to Mark's story or have experienced similar feelings of doubt, just quickly type "I understand" in the comments. You're not alone. Together, we can grow stronger, wiser, and live more empowered, fulfilling lives. Sudden mood swings. Have you ever noticed your partner suddenly shifting moods, one moment warm and affectionate, and the next, distant and irritable for no apparent reason? As human beings, our emotional states reflect our inner worlds. The ancient philosopher Seneca wisely stated, "It is quality rather than quantity that matters." If the quality of your emotional connection starts to decline abruptly, take note. A relationship built on sincerity does not swing unpredictably between affection and hostility. I recall a close friend, Kevin, an entrepreneur from Florida. Kevin noticed his girlfriend suddenly became irritable, often picking fights over trivial matters. At first, he dismissed it as stress from work. But soon, he realized these emotional fluctuations were her attempts at pushing him away, a subtle yet undeniable sign she had emotionally checked out. She starts showing sudden and unexplained mood swings, one day warm, the next cold and distant. She withdraws her usual warmth and affection, leaving you wondering if you've done something wrong. These unexplained emotional changes often indicate inner turmoil or guilt. She becomes less attentive. If your partner once paid close attention to your day, your dreams, and your struggles, but now seems indifferent or distracted, pause and reflect. Ancient wisdom reminds us, where attention goes, energy flows. When a partner withdraws attention, their emotional energy is often elsewhere. Let's talk about Jacob, an engineer from Texas. He shared how his partner, previously attentive and deeply involved in his life, gradually started forgetting important dates and details they used to cherish together. Her disengagement hurt him deeply, but he kept making excuses until he discovered painful truths about her infidelity. You deserve a partner who remains consistently interested and attentive, not one whose mind drifts towards someone else. She emotionally distances herself. Suddenly, your partner feels miles away, even when she sits right beside you. The emotional bond that once felt natural and genuine now feels strained and forced. The ancient philosopher Epictetus wisely said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life," and emotional freedom includes freeing yourself from relationships that drain your emotional peace. I once counseled Sarah, a talented writer from New York. She described feeling an invisible wall had formed between her and her partner, despite physical closeness. Eventually, she learned her partner's heart was already elsewhere. Understand this clearly: genuine emotional intimacy can never be forced or faked. My friends, recognizing these subtle emotional shifts isn't about fostering paranoia, it's about protecting your emotional well-being and dignity. By noticing early, you empower yourself to communicate effectively, assertively seek clarity, and preserve your inner peace. Each sign invites you to grow stronger and wiser. Before we continue, quickly share your thoughts. Have you ever experienced similar emotional red flags in your relationship? Simply comment, "I've felt this too," to let others know they're not alone. When someone we deeply care for begins to stray, subtle behavioral changes often reveal the truth long before words do. Let me guide you through 3 critical signs rooted in daily behaviors that could indicate your girlfriend has slept with someone else. Firstly, sudden and unexplained shifts in her daily schedule should raise your inner awareness. Imagine this: Brian, an architect in Boston, had always shared a predictable routine with his girlfriend. Then suddenly, she began canceling dates, frequently stayed late at work, and avoided explaining clearly why. Initially, he trusted her excuses. But as Aristotle said, character is revealed through action, not words. Consistent, unexplained schedule changes may indicate hidden secrets. Pay close attention, not to become paranoid, but to honor your inner wisdom. The second sign to watch carefully is her unusual protectiveness over her phone. Technology has given us remarkable tools for connection, yet it's also the perfect shield for secrets. If your partner suddenly becomes excessively protective of her phone, deleting messages frequently, or shielding the screen from your view, it's reasonable to question the shift. Let me share a story about Anthony, a respected educator from Boston. He noticed his girlfriend, once open and carefree with her phone, suddenly grew defensive. She always turned her screen away, never left it unattended, and reacted nervously if he got near. Deep down, Anthony knew something was wrong. His intuition whispered truth before evidence surfaced. This teaches us an essential life lesson: when behaviors change drastically without reason, your intuition is speaking, trust it. The third crucial behavioral sign is unexpected changes in personal hygiene or grooming habits. Showering immediately upon returning home, frequently changing clothes without logical reasons, and showing unusual obsession with cleanliness could signal deception. This isn't about paranoia, it's about staying aware. Ryan, an architect from Chicago, realized something odd when his girlfriend began showering immediately upon arriving home, claiming exhaustion from work. But her anxiety, evident through her rushed actions and restless eyes, signaled more than fatigue. Ancient wisdom reminds us, truth is hidden beneath the smallest gestures. When ordinary habits shift dramatically, pay attention and calmly seek clarity. Have you noticed any of these behavioral shifts in your relationship? If yes, simply type, "I've seen this," in the comments. Acknowledging this empowers you, reminding that awareness is strength. Let's continue growing wiser and stronger together. One of the most revealing signs that a partner may no longer be truly committed lies in their consistent avoidance of commitment itself. As the great philosopher Socrates taught us, to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. But equally critical is the willingness to know and understand your partner, especially when they begin to avoid deepening your bond. First, observe carefully when she consistently claims to be busy, using it as a barrier between you and genuine connection. Time, my friends, is the greatest currency we have. How we choose to spend it reflects what we value. If your partner repeatedly cancels plans or insists she's overwhelmed with work, yet somehow manages to make time for other friends or mysterious engagements, your awareness should rise. Remember Matt, a young lawyer from Chicago, who confided that his girlfriend would often use work-related stress to avoid meaningful interactions. Matt initially believed her excuses, but eventually, he realized her avoidance had deeper roots. She was distancing herself emotionally, subtly signaling that her commitment to the relationship had faded. Another significant sign appears when your partner avoids meeting your family and friends. Consider this carefully. Relationships do not exist in isolation. They're nourished by the supportive networks we build around us. When your partner hesitates or outright refuses to engage with those closest to you, it's a subtle yet profound message. Jessica, a professor from Seattle, shared a painful memory. Her partner always found excuses not to meet her family, constantly saying, "It's not the right time," or "maybe next time." Eventually, Jessica realized her partner's reluctance was rooted in an unwillingness to be fully integrated into her life, a life that included deeper commitments she wasn't prepared for. Such avoidance often signals hidden reservations or deeper issues, and you deserve clarity rather than continual uncertainty. Finally, consider her attitude toward long-term plans, especially marriage or deeper commitments. Genuine relationships flourish when both partners align their visions for the future. The great Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius reminds us, our lives are what our thoughts make them, and if your partner consistently deflects conversations about the future, she's silently communicating her own vision, one where you might not play a central role. Thomas, an entrepreneur from Boston, painfully recalled how his partner would dodge conversations about marriage and settling down. Initially, he convinced himself she was just cautious or independent-minded. Eventually, he understood she wasn't hesitant, she simply didn't see him in her long-term vision. My friends, awareness of these commitment issues isn't a reason to despair, it's an opportunity to reclaim your emotional clarity, dignity, and strength. Recognize these signs early, communicate openly, and trust your inner voice when deciding whether to stay or bravely move forward. Before we continue, quickly take a moment to share. If you've experienced these signs yourself, type "this resonates" in the comments below. It's a simple step toward acknowledging the truth, reminding you and others that awareness is the foundation of emotional strength and genuine happiness. One of the greatest tests of character, as the ancient philosopher Plato reminds us, is how truthfully we honor our commitments. When dishonesty creeps into a relationship, it slowly fractures trust, like tiny cracks spreading unnoticed, weakening the entire structure. Consider the famous and deeply relatable case of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, whose relationship was publicly scrutinized. Initially, it seemed idyllic, yet beneath the surface, dishonesty, infidelity, and lingering emotional ties to the past created profound turmoil. Their story illustrates clearly how damaging deception and unfaithfulness can become, turning affection into bitter resentment. First, frequent dishonesty isn't merely about isolated lies. Rather, it points toward a deeper inability to fully commit and honor truth. Small lies may seem trivial initially, but remember the words of Confucius, "The man who moves mountains begins by carrying away small stones." Repeated dishonesty reveals a pattern, something deeper at play. Next, pay close attention when your partner repeatedly mentions their ex. Occasional references might be harmless, but persistent mentions signal unresolved emotional attachments. Think of relationships like gardens. When one continually waters the weeds of the past, there's less room for healthy flowers to bloom in the present. Finally, observe carefully if your partner openly flirts with others or even engages in infidelity. Flirting, when frequent and disrespectful, isn't merely innocent fun, it signals an emotional detachment, a hunger for external validation that threatens your relationship stability. The wise philosopher Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Someone who repeatedly seeks external admiration is revealing deeper insecurities or emotional distance. But remember, recognizing these signs early doesn't mean immediate despair. Instead, see them as a powerful opportunity to reclaim clarity, dignity, and personal strength. Decide wisely, talk honestly, establish clear boundaries, and most importantly, trust your intuition. Now quickly share with me, if you've experienced similar signs or feelings of distrust, simply comment, "I understand." Together, we'll cultivate strength, awareness, and healthier relationships for a happier, more peaceful life. Let's examine one of the most widely discussed examples of manipulation, deceit, and emotional turmoil in recent history, the relationship between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Their story not only fascinated the public but also taught us powerful lessons on recognizing destructive relationship patterns before they escalate. At first glance, Depp and Heard seemed like the ideal couple, successful, attractive, admired by millions. Yet beneath this seemingly perfect surface was a darker reality, a cycle of manipulation, dishonesty, and infidelity that ultimately led to emotional devastation on both sides. Johnny Depp, beloved by many for his charisma and talent, initially overlooked the subtle warning signs, the frequent mood swings, inconsistent behavior, and constant dishonesty. Amber Heard, charismatic and seemingly affectionate, gradually revealed troubling behaviors, emotional manipulation, dishonesty, and infidelity. By the time the truth emerged, the damage had deeply affected Depp's emotional health, career, and public image. This real-life scenario powerfully demonstrates how vital early awareness is. Had Depp trusted his instincts earlier, setting firm boundaries and addressing these patterns assertively, he could have avoided much of the emotional pain and turmoil he endured. Consider this wise advice from the ancient Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, who once stated, "No person is free who is not master of themselves." Recognizing early signs of manipulation or deceit isn't about fear, it's about empowerment, about taking proactive control of your emotional well-being. Let this story remind you clearly and powerfully, awareness is the strongest shield against manipulation. Early recognition combined with calm, assertive action allows you to protect your peace, dignity, and future happiness. Today, my friend, commit yourself to trust your intuition, address concerns openly and honestly, and prioritize self-respect above all else. By doing so, you ensure a life built on authenticity, trust, and genuine happiness. Now, I invite you to participate with one simple yet powerful action. Type the words, "Awareness is power," in the comments below. This small yet meaningful step reaffirms your commitment to protect yourself, strengthen your emotional health, and inspire others on the journey toward wiser, happier relationships. When it comes to relationships, my dear friend, awareness and decisive action are your greatest allies. Now that you've recognized the potential signs, it's essential to have a clear roadmap on what to do next. First and foremost, trust your intuition and recognize the signs early. Intuition is the silent voice of wisdom within us all, shaped by our deepest experiences and instincts. It's often wiser than logic alone, as Socrates once taught us, true wisdom begins with knowing yourself. If something feels off, honor that feeling. Acknowledge your suspicions honestly, without dismissing them as mere paranoia. This is your internal alarm, guiding you to truth and clarity. Second, engage in sincere, open, and transparent communication with your partner. Approach her calmly and compassionately, but directly. Begin the conversation gently, perhaps saying, "I sense something has changed between us, and I'd like to understand." As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Your goal is clarity, not confrontation. Allow her the space to speak freely, and actively listen to her response. This open dialogue provides both of you the opportunity for honesty and the possibility of healing and growth, regardless of the outcome. Finally, be decisive and courageous enough to protect your dignity. If your genuine communication confirms your suspicions and reveals a fundamental break in trust, summon the strength to make the tough but empowering decision to move on. Remember the wisdom from Lao Tzu, new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. It might hurt now, but this decision will liberate you and open the doors to authentic happiness and inner peace. Before we wrap up, let's do something simple yet powerful together. If you've ever trusted your gut instinct about someone, comment below with, "I trust myself." Together, let's reinforce our inner strength and create a community rooted in wisdom, courage, and truth.